All right, so I want to make this video talking about ruts. I live out in California, and in California we have a water problem, and we don't have water to make ruts like Loretta Lynn's here in the picture has. When I went out for practice for Loretta Lynn's, it was a kind of a shocker. I could not believe how deep and rutty the track was. It was unlike anything I've ever ridden. And out in California, we do get little ruts, but we only water the top 6 to maybe foot of terrain, and underneath that is just hard packed. So if we do get ruts, they're very, very shallow. I do have a local practice track, the Durden's facility here in Hollister, where it's a smaller track, but he rips it really deep and tries to get some really good ruts. So I got some video, and I am going to try to explain how to get through ruts and feel calm and comfortable as you're going through those ruts. It's just a lot of technique, a lot of looking ahead and not behind, and I will try to break this down. All right, so here's a little slow-mo video of hitting this really deep rut, and it's hard to see from the video because the angle we're at, but that rut was really deep, and it was peg scraping as you went through it. So there's a lot of key things that I will break down in the still frames here of getting you through these deep ruts without stopping and going and keeping the flow, the momentum, and that bike moving forward like it should be. Okay, so this is entering the deep rut. Now, this was a little S section, and this is where the rut got really deep. And one thing you need to be mindful of when you have very deep ruts is riding either brake. And in some situations, it is okay to ride your front brake or your rear brake. But when you get very deep ruts like this, these ruts are deep enough that they are going to hold your bike. So it's important to get all your heavy braking done before you enter the deep part of the rut. Okay, so if we look at this picture, I also have, you can't really tell because, sorry, again, it's a little blurry, but my finger is on the clutch. I am ready to control that bike all the way through that deep rut. It's going to be very hard to go through deep ruts with multiple hooks without keeping your finger on the clutch. You are just going to try to control it with the throttle, and that bike is going to be very, very hard to control. All right, so let's talk about body position. And the one thing you can see here is where my eyes are focused. I am not looking at that rut. I am looking at the end of the rut. So once I know my wheels are in there, I want my eyes and my head focused on where I want to be and not where I'm at. So when I come into this rut, my eyes are looking at the end of the rut because that's where I want to put the bike. Wherever your eyes go, the bike will follow. So my head is turned, looking past the rut, not looking down at the rut on where I'm at, but where I want to be. Also, my feet are on the balls of the feet. And the reason for this is to get through these long ruts, it's a lot of controlling it with your feet. And I will dive more into that on the next frame. All right, so next frame here, this is just moving a little bit more forward. As you can see, my head is rotating. And that's one thing is people will get fixated on a point. When I tell them to look ahead, okay, they'll enter the corner and they'll look ahead and then they'll just fixate on a certain point. Now, your head has to be on a swivel the entire time you're riding. Don't just fixate. Don't start the corner, look ahead, pick a spot, and then just keep your eyes focusing there. You have to be 15 to 20 feet ahead of yourself all the time. So like I said here, my eyes are focused forward. I got my finger on the clutch still to modulate the power. I am on the balls of my feet and my legs are pretty straight. And here I have the unlocked hips like Ryan Hughes and a lot of people have been talking about over the last 10 years or so. And what that allows me to do by being on the balls of my feet, I am dropping my heels. So I'm on the balls of my feet, my heels are dropped, my legs are pretty straight, and I can control the bike with my legs and hips. So if there's any awkward hooks or parts where the rut gets deep and goes a different way or sends me a different way, I can use my legs and my hips to control the bike instead of my arms. If I try to control the bike with my arms, it's really not going to do much but pop me out of that rut or make me fall over. So key things here, finger on the clutch to modulate power through the rut because it's very deep and it's going to be pretty near impossible to do it with no clutch. I mean, it's doable, but it's just going to be hard to control the bike. My eyes are focused. My head is on a swivel. I am rotating my head as I proceed through the rut. Balls of the feet on the foot pegs, virtually almost straight legs, and then my hips are untucked or unlocked. And that is allowing me to control the bike as I continue through this rut. All right, so here is hitting the deepest part of the rut. So you can see that the terrain changes. It kind of goes from a high spot to a low spot to an even lower spot. And you can see the pressure that it's putting on my suspension. Now, a key thing here is to not look at this hole. Right here, I am looking up beyond it to the little jump or whatever that thing is coming out of the corner. But I am not on the brakes. My head is up. I am off the brakes to free up my suspension. If I rode the brakes in this point in a very deep rut like this, it's going to bind my front. So it's going to make my front forks lower, and I'm going to catch actually part of that rut because my forks are so compressed. It's going to catch part of the rut and want to send me off the track or fall over or whatnot. If I rode my rear brake, it's going to stand my bike up because it's going to bind the rear suspension and not let the shock flow freely. Same thing with the forks. You got to let that suspension flow freely through the rut. So a lot of it is doing your heavy braking before you come in, get off your brakes, and throttle control and modulation with that clutch. And in this picture, you can see my feet, okay? This is what I'm talking about, balls of the feet with my heels dropped, okay? Your heels need to be below the foot pegs. And what that does, it allows your ankles, your contact patch with your legs, and your hips to control the bike. So everything I'm doing here, not much is being done with the handlebars. This is all foot, ankle, leg, and hip control. And then the bigger part is getting your eyes forward and looking ahead. So when you're going through these deep ruts like this, it's not muscling the handlebars. It's utilizing your feet, your ankles, proper body positioning, and focusing on where you want to go. All right, in this last picture, what I want to point out is look at where my head is, okay? My head is so far forward that it's making my bike look tiny coming out of this. Watch any good pro, their heads are always in front of their handlebars unless they're sitting going through a corner. And yes, some people rode on the rear end like Ryan Villapoto, but pay attention to where his head was, okay? A lot of that riding on the rear end was, in a corner or coming out of a corner, but your head placement, Jet, Chase Sexton, any of the good racers nowadays, they all have their head forward. You need to anticipate what that bike is going to do, and you control it before it decides to control you. So very important, keep the head forward. That will help your unlocked hips, your legs in the correct position, and it'll be much easier to control your bike if you really focus on getting that head in front of the crossbar pad. You should be able to look down, and when you look down, you should see the end of your front fender. Ride with your head forward, especially through deep ruts like this.